What's going on, people? Thanks for stopping by today. 400 subscribers, that's pretty wild. I appreciate everyone that's kind of coming along on this journey. Trying not to let you down, trying to pump out some quality workouts for us. Today, we're gonna have a 45-minute dumbbell workout. So I used a pair of 30s and a pair of 50s just for one exercise. And then 30, something we can move around relatively easy. I just got out of the shower after the workout, and I can tell you, it was not easy. A lot of glute work, a lot of unilateral work. We're gonna hit the core, we're gonna get some pressing, some pulling. We got all the planes of movements, all the different muscle groups, so we're gonna get into it. So if you do like this workout, go ahead, hit that subscribe button for all the upcoming ones in the future. We're gonna keep this thing going every week. If you do not like something about it, please give me a comment so I can fix it. I'm trying to cater this whole page to you guys and make these workouts as friendly and exciting for you guys as possible. So if you don't have any questions with the workouts here listed, go ahead, let this play out. We're gonna get 5 minutes warmed up, get this train out of the station. If you do have some questions, if something is not looking right as far as the scorecard right here, something's jumping off the page, jump to the back. I'll have them listed, all the videos dissected, going at piece by piece. Get you familiar with them before we get it going. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's have a good one. Let's get a little sweat going. Let's get better today. All that fun stuff. So let's do it. Good day, workout people. Thanks for stopping by. You could just go ahead, jump in whenever you feel comfortable. Just getting through some body weight movements, twisting the spine, extending the spine, flexing it, getting a little bit of pressing up overhead and opening up the hips. So amongst these 5 minutes, if we will, just kind of get a game plan for how we want to approach this workout, get our mind right, set intent where we want to be at the end of this hour-long block. Let's breathe through it, let's get everything warmed up, and let's get our minds right for what's ahead.
great job out there so far. Hopefully we're warmed up, hopefully we're limber and ready to attack this workout. The first grouping right here, we're going to be focusing a lot on unilateral work, some core stability, core strength, overhead pressing strength. So grab your dumbbells that you're going to be working with today. Go a little bit lighter than what you would typically do for an overhead press, as we are going to have an unstable environment and then 2 lower body portions in the exercise. So let's get situated, let's hop on into it, and let's get this workout started.
I'm falling on my knees to pray. Lord,
Very nice. 3 sets down, hopping into another grouping of movements. This one is going to incorporate some lower body pulling, a little bit of upper body pressing, and a metabolic component, kind of throwing a burpee in the mix. Then we're going to pair that with a little bit of core stability, so a bear stance into a pull through, pulling strength, single arm shoulder stability, all that jazz. So buckle up, you got a minute, we're going to hop right back into it. are moving on, people. Good job. We're about that halfway point now in the workout. We've done 6 sets. We got a Tabata, another 3 sets here. So let's get some new movements going on. This will be a funky swing lunge into a curtsy. So with this one, you definitely want to find your flow, use your core to stabilize. And the second pairing of this will be an adductor side plank with a kick through. So a lot of fluid movements, really moving the body in new patterns, getting a lot of trunk stability, and just having some fun with it. So breathe it out for this next minute. We got another 3 coming at you. Nice job, people. 3 sets down. We're gonna hop into a Tabata. I'm sure you are glad you are not doing those weird movements anymore. So with this next 18 minutes, we're gonna move into more linear planes of movement. So movements where we may be a little bit more accustomed to. So the first one will be a swing lunge into a curl, full body movement, alternating sides there into a single arm bent over row on both sides, and wrapping up on the ground with some bicycle crunches and some floor presses with a glute bridge. So still staying up with the intensity, working for 40 seconds, resting for 20 seconds. We're gonna get through each movement about 3 times. So grab your water, buckle up, we got 18 minutes ahead of us.
Wonder why my mind keeps on spinning. This isn't how living to me was so. Why am I like this? Something's always amiss. Can't put my finger on it, but it's there. Wait for it to subside, but my mind won't apply. Waiting for the clear. Is it bad? Sometimes I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so beautiful. Listen, I can see the light today, but I can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away. Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it'll cave in and swallow me whole. Wondering how the world keeps on spinning, kinda scared of living when it unfolds. Hard to see the light when everything is dying, waiting for the clear. Thankful I'm alive, but terrified of dying. But hey, I'm still here. Is it bad? Sometimes I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so beautiful. Listen, I can see the light today, but I can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away. And throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it'll cave in and swallow me whole. Wonder why my mind keeps on spinning. This isn't how living to me was so. Why am I like this? Something's always amiss. Can't put my finger on it, but it's there. Wait for it to subside, but my mind won't apply. Waiting for the clear. Is it bad? Sometimes I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so beautiful. Listen, I can see the light today, but I can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away. Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it'll cave in and swallow me whole. Wondering how the world keeps on spinning. within. I can see the light dim, but I can also see the bones again. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away.
inside the rabbit hole. Set me free from you. Somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from somebody please keep me from.
Doing great, y'all. Halfway point. We got 9 minutes down, 9 minutes left to go. So let's focus on our breathing. Stay with that good form. Do what we can allow ourselves to do in that 40 seconds of work time. Take the rest for the breather. Let's get it collected. Let's finish strong.
What kind of spell you put on me? I've lost all sense and can't feel. Only you can make me whole. I don't wanna lose my soul. I'm so scared I can't breathe. I just don't know what to believe. You wrote my name on the stone.
All right, excellent job to you guys. That was a long 18 minutes, so really proud of you. Get off your feet, grab some water. Take these 2 minutes, just kind of get away from the weights, let your mind cool down, let your heart rate come back to normal. We're gonna wrap up with just 3 final sets, a little bit of accessory work and a little bit more of the core just to wrap things up. It'll be an upright row for our shoulder development, some floor jacks for metabolic conditioning, and just traditional sit-ups just to hit that core one last time before we hit the road. So again, take these 2 minutes, get your water, get your feet back underneath you, and let's finish this one up on a high note.
forgot to make a video after the workout, but that doesn't negate the fact that I'm still proud of you guys. Just got the shower. That was a doozy. That was a good one. I definitely liked the dumbbells. I liked the deadlifts and the push-ups. That one whooped me for sure. And then the Tabata movements and everything. That is just bam, 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 bam. Getting a good sweat going. Hopefully you all made it to the end. If you did, that's awesome. If you didn't, maybe give it a couple days, give it a week, come back to it and hit the ground running. We can definitely make some progress on that one. As always, appreciate it. Send it to somebody that you dislike and punish them if you want. If you liked it, maybe subscribe me, and then we can keep this train rolling and you're not gonna miss any other workouts coming up in the future. If you did not like it, let me know. I'll apologize and I'll try and fix it for the next go around. Keep on trucking, guys. Keep on going with it. I appreciate y'all for sticking with me. 400 followers, that's pretty wild, or subscribers. Yeah, it's a lot of people doing these workouts with me. That's pretty cool. So I'll try not to let you guys down moving forward. Yeah, till next time.
Fun full body movement right here. It'll be a squat pattern into a lunge pattern and an overhead press. If we're starting on one side, we're doing kind of a variation between a suitcase deadlift and a suitcase squat. So it is not primarily knee, or it's not dominant by the hip. So it's a little bit of both. We're trying to get that dumbbell all the way down to the ground, keeping our torso up as much as we can, and then not teeter-tottering over to one side if we have the load on it. So let's start on our right side. We're gonna squat down, try and have that dumbbell touch the ground, and then being that it is ipsilateral, it's gonna be the same side. So if it's the right side pressing up overhead, dumbbells in our right arm, the left leg is gonna be going back, so the right leg will be performing the lunge pattern. After we come up from that squat, kind of use that momentum, swing that thing up into the front rack position, so trying to keep our forearm as vertical as we can. And then while we're in that bottom lunge position, so that rear leg wants to be almost 90 degrees, that shin wants to be parallel to the ground, knee underneath the hip, underneath the shoulders, so everything's stacked in a pillar. So we're nice, strong, have that good foundation, and then we're gonna try and initiate that press. So what this is doing right here, if we're generating on our right side, everything on the left side now needs to stabilize. The hips aren't wobbling, the knee isn't collapsing inwards. We're not favoring into one side, so try and stay as stable as we can. Get that press up overhead, back into the front position, finish up that lunge pattern, and then we're gonna go right back into it. RDL, squat at the beginning, not leaning over, got a lunge, nice strong base, overhead press, back to that start position. So it's really gonna test your stability, really gonna test your core strength, overhead stability. So definitely a fun one, and get that heart rate up in the process. This is going to be a pretty challenging core movement, so if you're up for the challenge, let's give this one a go. It's going to be a high side plank into a toe touch. So depending upon your skill level, or how strong your core is and stability wise, we can either do it in a high plank or a low plank. This variation is going to be up in a high plank. So we're going to lengthen that lever arm, we're going to shorten the foot base, so as opposed to being the forearm, we're going to be up on the hand. We're just going to ask everything to stabilize just a little bit more. So let's say our left arm is stabilizing, the right arm is going to be moving about, the right leg is going to be moving about, trying to touch that toe. So we're asking a lot from the left side to stabilize, right side's gonna mobilize. So we're getting a lot of the abductors for that left leg, left hip to prop ourselves up, a lot from the shoulders, from the lats, a lot from the obliques, everything to make that nice straight line from the shoulders down to the heels. And then the opposite side of us, we're gonna be doing a little bit of flexion and extension. So we're gonna go reach out overhead. We're not letting our hips dangle down or ribs flare out as we do that extension. And then as we come together, we're gonna be asking our hip flexors and our abductors to turn on while it's in space and stabilize while we're moving about. Definitely take this one slow, because as soon as we start getting some moving parts involved, your arm's gonna be shaking immediately. You're gonna feel that shoulder start working. Go super slow. You don't want to take any momentum and topple you over, or when you meet in the middle, you do like a big crunch over. So as we exhale, everything's coming together. As we inhale, everything's extending, so nice and slow, really strong with the base. A good tip here, if you've ever opened up like a jar of peanut butter or a pickle jar, how we twist it, that's kind of the idea that you want your down arm to be. So as opposed to just putting it down and forgetting about it, give it one of those twists. So we're going to internally rotate. That's going to engage our lats. That's going to make sure everything's nice and packed down into the ground. Just help you out in the long run as far as creating that stable foundation before we start moving things and still asking that to hang tight. Starting from the ground up, that rotation, really squeeze the glutes the whole time, really moving with intent as we come together right here. So this is going to be a side plank toe touch.
It's a good one here if you're looking for a full body. So it's going to be a lower body pull and an upper body press. So it'll be about 2 RDLs. I'm not sure if you count the first one as an RDL or just getting the dumbbells up. I'm just counting it as 1 rep. So 1 or 2 RDLs with the dumbbells, and then on the second one, you go ahead and plop them down on the ground and getting into a press. So if we are familiar with Romanian deadlifts, regular deadlifts, suitcase deadlifts, this is kind of the patterning that we're going for. I would recommend going a little bit more narrow than what you typically do, just because the dumbbells are going to be on the outside as opposed to in front of you. Narrow up that foot base, so dumbbells are going to go off to the side, soft bend in the knees, hip hinge, so nice flat back. Let's pinch our shoulder blades together, create space between the shoulders and the ears. And then as we hinge forward, hips go back, still bracing the core. We're going to get 1. Depending upon your mobility level, you can stop just past the knees. If you have the mobility in the hamstrings and it's allowing you to get down there without any arch in the back or anything swaying up top, then by all means you can go down there and try and get as close to the ground as you can. 2 on the deadlifts, exhaling as you come up, driving those hips forward. On the second one, you go ahead, you set those dumbbells on the ground, moving into almost a burpee position, so right in front of you. As far as comfortability goes, I would just skew the dumbbells a little bit on a 45, and that'll just allow your shoulders to move more fluidly in a natural position as opposed to being propped up at a 90. So again, whatever's comfortable for you, I would recommend going on that 45 just to create more space up top. But do that push-up, and then as we complete the push-up, jumping back together, feet back in that narrower type of stance, and moving right back in those RDLs. So like I said, lower body pulling, upper body pressing, and that metabolic component jumping back and forth. So it's a really good one if you want to tax the full body and you're kind of limited on time. Core movement, kind of a primal movement too, so it'll be a full body. We're going to be incorporating a lot of our hip stability, and then shoulder stability, core stability, so a little bit of everything, and then we're dynamically pulling a kettlebell or a dumbbell through us here. I think the previous video had a kettlebell, but we're doing it with a dumbbell today. Hop into that bear stance if you are familiar with it. It'll be, hips down, wrists underneath our elbows, underneath our shoulders, so nice 90 up top. Hips are going to be a straight line up to our shoulders for the most part, if it's within reason for us, if we're nice and comfortable. And then for the back body, it'll be a 90 degrees from the hip down to the femur, and then the femur to the shin, and that should be parallel to the ground. A lot of body parts I just threw at you, but for the most part, we're just on hands and knees all fours, trying to stay low. As we progress into this movement, let's have the dumbbell, the weight, anything on our right-hand side, just for starters, hypothetically. And then as we do that pull, we're pulling it across. That'll be asking our rhomboids, our lats, everything in that pull to fire, as well as everything on the opposing side to stabilize and fight that urge to rotate into the weight, while also being able to generate the force to move the weight. So it's a really good one to, fire both sides of assistance and resistance. So fighting rotation, but also generating force. When you lift up that arm, drive that same side leg into the ground as hard as you can. So that's going to operate and engage your quadriceps, that's going to turn on your glutes, that's going to just fight everything and turn it into the side as opposed to flipping over. So I'll say this in every video until y'all get tired of it, I'm sure. But if you have a bowl of cereal or a cup of soup or something on your lower back, we're not trying to spill that thing. We want to keep it nice and level. What I mean by that, the hips aren't rising or shifting, the lower back is not arching or concaving, if you will. So the whole time squeezing the glutes, making sure everything's nice and level, and we're pulling and pressing at the same time. Really good if you want to light up that core, fight those obliques. Then there's so many options that you can go from in this bear stance as well. So it's a fun one if you're new to it. Give it a try. Go definitely a bit lighter than what you would typically do for any other type of pulling movement, because we really want to move with intent, not fight the dumbbell or fight the weight too much as far as the load getting up there, but really use that core, feel it react as we have that stimulus on it. But yeah, fun one, bear stance pull through. Full body leg movement right here. So this would be kind of had a difficult time finding the name for this one, so I'm calling it a side swing clean into an open curtsy. So side swing, start off your shoulder width apart. We're going to be having the weight on one side. It's in a front rack position. Forearm is vertical, and we're going to be moving to our left side, back to our right, back to our left hand side. So it's a lot of different movements. We're going to be asking our core and trunk to stabilize, trying to keep our torso up, our spine neutral, but we are shifting or rotating, so we're hitting that transverse plane, which oftentimes we're not doing from day-to-day life, but today we are. So once we go, we almost want to make a J pattern from that front rack position. So go ahead, dip, same side leg, that's going to pivot, let those hips go with us, let the shoulders go with us, making a J. When it gets to that
farthest point, let gravity do the work, and you're gonna help it out just a little bit, pulling it back, and then we're gonna move back into that front rack position again, but now the whole body is shifting the other way, and we're slowly reclining into a curtsy lunge. So it is kind of a dance. You gotta flow with it, you gotta find your flow, you gotta find, the rhythm of the dumbbell as well. You don't really wanna fight it too much, so you're letting gravity, you're moving with it, allowing it to move, and using your core to stabilize throughout this. So as we rotate, like I said, you don't want our trunk going down, we don't wanna be flexing over it, we want our spine to be as neutral as we can. Then we are gonna use our glutes, we're gonna use our obliques, we're gonna use our biceps, shoulders, all that to sway us back into that direction, and we're gonna actively lower ourselves into the curtsy. We don't just wanna swing, let the dumbbell take us for a ride, and now we're plopping all sideways into a curtsy lunge, right? We don't want that. So while we're swinging, actively lower ourselves, and then when we get to that lowest position of the curtsy lunge, we are now, as opposed to having our torso facing ahead, we wanna rotate towards the down leg. So again, we're getting thoracic mobility, we're getting core stabilization, we're also activating and mobilizing the abductors and the adductors of that and bottom leg, and the hip flexors right there. Bringing it back to center, we're gonna stand up into that start position, and we're just gonna repeat the process. Doing a twist, twisting back, lowering ourselves down, doing a big rotation, rotating back. Fun one, you're gonna be feeling it as your core reacts to things and all the different stimuli as we're rotating and flowing through it. So definitely a good one, full body one, and definitely proprioception. A lot of parts moving, take it slow, start off light. Body weight core movement. So this one will be in particular, it's almost like an adductor plank. I know we had these on the channel about a month ago, adductor cross planks. We're now gonna mobilize this just a little bit more. So if we are in a cross plank, depending upon your stability level and core strength level, you can be on the ground on our forearm. That could be, entrance level. If you are very comfortable and you're able to go up into the high plank on your hand, this is the variation that we're gonna be discussing right here. So if we're up, let's say our left arm planted on the ground, we're doing the little tomato jar, pickle jar tactic that we were discussing. So unscrew that, internally rotate, create a nice strong foundation right here for the shoulder girdle, engage the lats. As we prop ourselves up into the side plank, it's gonna be our right leg on the ground. So left leg is gonna be the one that's mobilizing. Now we're really asking those adductors on the right side to squeeze, prop those hips up. We're also squeezing the glutes and just trying to be as rigid as we can as far as the plank goes, so we have the stabilization to be moving back and forth in the kick through portion of this exercise. So we got left arm down, right leg stabilizing. Now the left leg, it kind of looks like a dance. We're just gonna try and kick ahead as far as we can, kick backwards as much as we can. So although that leg is moving, we don't want, the hips dangling down and the torso collapsing as we kick backwards. Same way we don't want arching everything forward as we kick forward. So just the leg is moving, activate that glute, activate those hip flexors dynamically. Then also we're getting some adductor strength. Now our shoulder girdle, shoulder complex, that all needs to be reactive of the weight that's now transferring amongst it. Also the adductor and the glutes, the core, everything is lighting on fire here as the legs are moving through. Looks pretty deceptive. You're gonna be feeling it. I'm feeling it. If you want a little bit more action out of this, you can turn it into that cross plank one that I mentioned before. You can drape 10, 15 pounds in the opposite arm, have that up overhead. So now we're really demanding our core to stabilize as we go about the kick throughs. Good for the core, good for the obliques, good for the hip flexors. This is a side plank kick through. Full body dumbbell movement. So this will be a lunge, this will be a curl. So we're getting a little bit of upper body pulling, lower body pressing, and then being that it is contralateral, it'll be a lot of core fighting the urge to rock back and forth, being that we have an offset load. We're gonna start everything, let's just say it's in our right hand, right? So dumbbell, let's go moderate. We don't wanna go too heavy, we don't wanna go too light, we want something just right. Just enough to tax our body. This will be a timed movement or a movement a little bit higher in repetition. So we're not going for a 1 rep max or for 6 right here, that would be a little funky. Aim for sets of 12 to 15 or let the timer go and you can rock with that. Right side, we're gonna have the right leg move back. So now we have the weight transferring across, left leg is doing the lunge pattern. So if we're in the front rack position, this will be our start. Forearm vertical, squeezing the glutes, space between the shoulders and the ears, so really pack those shoulder blades down. As we lower ourselves into that lunge pattern, I'm gonna let that dumbbell come down. As we step forward into the end of the lunge pattern, that's when we curl the weight up. So it's almost like a seesaw, vice versa type of action. Lunge pattern, no curl, together, curl. So this will be great for getting the metabolic output going. We're just pumping things out, really hammering home the leg and then the opposite arm. Good for balance. Like I said, that weight's going to be transferring back and forth. We're using that momentum almost, carrying us back and forth. Proprioception, even just talking about it, I had to slow down and think about my words, so it's definitely a handful of different moving parts. It'll test your brain as well. Some smoke coming out of the ears. It's a fun one. Definitely throw it, like you said, the bottom movement. You can tax out your legs. I mean, also you can alternate legs, 2 dumbbells. There's definitely a lot of variables that you can play around with this exercise, but this will be a contralateral reverse lunge into a curl. Upper body pulling movement. I'm sure you've done this one before. I'm sure I've discussed it before with a kettlebell, but today we're doing the dumbbell variation to it. So we're just going to do a B stance bent over row. If we are unfamiliar with the B stance, it'll be very similar to I would assume A stance would be the traditional one. So if we're doing B stance, let's do shoulder width apart. Then if we're going to be on our right arm, let's move that right leg back just a little bit. So the front toes are going to be aligned with the heel. So we're almost making a box, just staggered stance. It's not like a lunge. It's not like we're really kicking that leg too far back. And it's not like we're toe to heel, like we're doing a field test or anything like that. So nice strong foundation, just offsetting it. All this is going to do is put a little bit more weight on that front leg as well as for this rowing pattern, just freeing up a little bit of space for that row to glide up and just be out of the way from your hip and allow for a greater contraction up at the top. Got the B stance. We're going to have a soft bend in both the legs. We're going to bring the hips backwards, squeezing the glutes, tucking our belly button up, nice neutral spine. On our right side, right leg is back, and we're just starting a lawnmower, driving up through the elbows, bringing that dumbbell up into our back pocket, and then as we let it go down, really let your shoulder blades protract, get a big stretch at the end, and then as we pull up, big squeeze at the top. So what we do not want right here, good red flag if we are maybe getting a little bit too fatigued or that weight is getting out of control on us and it's starting to get a little heavier. You might see people going like that, or when they row, the arm kind of goes down on us. So those are going to be 2 tickets right there for your way to a lighter weight or to give yourself a little pause. If we are getting shruggy, just be mindful, pin that shoulder blade down, engage your lower traps, and just focus on pulling the scapula together as opposed to letting it elevate. We don't want the upper traps taking over. We want the lats to be doing the majority of that work. Same idea if we are doing the rock forward. That'll just be your biceps really trying to take over and dominate that movement, or your shoulder girdle trying to compensate for not having the strength to pull backwards. So those are just 2 little cues to be mindful of: shoulder down and back, and then letting it retract as you pull that thing backwards. Trying to lead with the elbow as opposed to just picking it up. Try and use the weight as a tool to engage the muscle group, right? So you can hold the weight's just along for the ride. You're now moving the elbow, contracting, focusing on the lat to be doing the movement as opposed to you want to pick the thing up. Detaching from the ego, so really focusing on the muscle group, focusing on the movement pattern ahead, and it is a very simple movement, so really trying to hammer this one down as far as fundamentals for it. The single arm bent over row. Full body movement, this one's going to be from a supine position. So if we are down on the ground, supine meaning on the ground on your back. So if we're there, we're going to move up into a glute bridge. So find a distance that is working for us. We don't want our heels too close to our backside. So when we bridge up, the weight's on our toes and our knees are protruding ahead. And we also don't want our feet too far away from us. So we're doing like a weird hamstring bridge thing. So a couple of steps out, nice wide base, about shoulder width, maybe even a little bit more. You can be able to wiggle your toes, weight in the heel of your foot, and then when we drive up, squeeze the glutes, try and have those hips up off the ground. So that'll be the foundation. We're now going to be moving into the pressing portion of the movement, so floor press. This will be alternating. So if we have our dumbbells, we're now in almost like a recline position, so it's very similar to if you were doing a decline bench press with the angle of our chest and core and everything. So we're going to be a little bit stronger in this position as far as pressing, and we're also not going down quite as deep into abduction of our arms and opening up our chest quite as much. So we're going to have the support of the floor to get ourselves back up. So in doing so, we're going to be alternating arms. So let's start on our right side. We can move that arm down kind of on a 45. We don't want it tucked right onto us. We don't want to be out like a scarecrow and jeopardize our shoulder complex. So a nice distance right in the middle, around a 45. When we get down to the ground, we don't want to have our arm fall one way or the other. So nice, slow and controlled. When we hit the ground, we want our forearm as vertical as we can keep it, right? Quick touch, and we're pressing up, alternating sides the whole time, keeping our hips up high off the ground. So we're engaging our core, engaging our lats, engaging our quads, our glutes, just about everything. So we're getting that press there. If you're strapped on time or looking for just a little bit more of the spiciness, you can definitely go down with both the arms for the floor press. So just, doubling the amount of reps in that time. Doing one arm at a time is just going to tax your core just a little bit more, as there is going to be that anti-rotation factor to things. So this will be your bridge with an alternating dumbbell floor press. Never thought I'd be making a video on the bicycle crunch, but here we are. Sure, we've done this one in gym class, or if you ever did track and field back in high school. Definitely have done this one for a lot of times. This will be good for the hip flexors, this will be good for the lower core, good for the T-spine as far as rotation. Classic core movement. As we rotate up top, we're going to be alternating the leg that goes out towards the ground, almost like you're riding a bicycle. If the bicycle had a long, narrow track and high pedals, maybe one of those bikes with like the one big tire in front and the small tire in the back. Picture that bicycle that you're riding. And then as we crunch upwards, opposite arm, opposite knee, right? So we're gonna bring our left elbow to a right knee, vice versa, and then just a small extension, I would say, or at least just going back down to the earth in between each rotation. Give you a couple variations. You can go super slow and give it like a 3 Mississippi. You can really crunch up, hold it there for a little bit, very slow. That'll be a little bit more as far as stability, holding it out there. Or you can go on a sprint on that big bicycle ride and you can just really bang it out. A couple of variations. One would get the heart rate up a little bit more. The other one would be maybe looking at endurance and just stability in the end portion and range of motion a little bit more. But yeah, bicycle crunch. Dumbbell upright row. I'm sure you've seen this one before at the gym, or maybe on like the fitness magazines. You always see the jacked guy doing the upright rows. Definitely mixed reviews as far as the efficacy of this movement, as far as the safety for the shoulders and overall risk reward ratio. I think every movement, for the most part, if done correctly and if done with intent and just being mindful of how you're moving, I think the more variety that we incorporate into our training programs, the better. So don't flame me on having this one in the routine for today, just for today. But if we have an upright row, we're gonna go moderately light. We don't want to load up the weight and really stress that shoulder girdle too much, as we are, moving into a somewhat compromised position. Use something that you can do for about 12 to 15 reps. You don't want to be jerking anything. You don't want to be really straining that muscle group or throwing weight up into that position that you can't easily handle. As we move into this, we don't want the wrists ever higher than the elbows. We always want to be leading with the elbows, getting to a moderate height while maintaining space between your shoulders and your ears, which may be difficult if we're unaware of scapular control, but we don't want to shrug and then pull up like that. We only have so much space in our shoulder. We don't want to completely compress it and shrug up and everything, so really pack those shoulders down and be mindful as we pull upwards. We want to be using the lateral head of the delts. You are going to get some upper trap engagement, but that doesn't want to be the primary mover of this exercise. Obviously, we're going to get a little bit of bicep as we are flexing the elbow, but as we pull upwards, try and compress the scapula as much as we can, so use our lower traps as well as the deltoids to pull it upwards. We don't want to be scrunched forward. We don't want to flex the spine. Squeezing the glutes, tucking our belly button, making sure everything is nice and compact, tilting the hips forward. If there's any type of clicking or numbness or burning or any type of sensation right there that you normally don't have throughout the day, and now all of a sudden you have it, that might be something you take note of if it is bothering you. So many other movements that we can do to train these muscle groups. So really focusing on your lateral deltoids. This would be a good cardio movement, so jumping jacks, but on the floor jacks. If we're on a dumbbell, the only reason I have it on the dumbbell is just because you're gonna have a little bit more neutral wrist alignment as opposed to being completely extended and being on the ground. So maybe if you have arthritis or a recent wrist surgery or an injury in the past, this might be the nice hand grip for you. If it's not your jam, you can totally have your hands on the ground. It doesn't really matter for this one in particular, but as we extend and come together, we're jumping both ways. So the whole time trying to squeeze your glutes, tuck your tailbone down, straight line from the shoulders down to the heels, and just going out and in. So this will be good for cardio, getting the heart rate up. It'll be good a little bit for your calves, glutes, abductors as we extend and open up those hips. One thing that you should just be mindful of being that there is a little bit of plyometric force and compression each time as we're jumping together, because we have that component to it. Make sure that we have the core stability and core strength to be in that high plank position for a good 30 seconds or so, and also have the strength to fight off those compression forces as we're doing the hop. The last thing we want is to have our back arched a little bit if our core is lacking the strength and stability to, be in a high plank for that long. And then we add in, opening the hips and jumping and everything. That's just gonna ride in your low back, and we do not want that. So if we can maintain the plank, if we can maintain good, correct positioning throughout the jumping portion of this movement, then it's good to go. If we are a little bit shaky out of the gates, if the high plank is taxing for us, maybe recommend just being up in a high plank and maybe stepping out to the side. That could be a good start for us, and then progress to the jumping, but that would be the only red flag for us, but save the back. Looking at a core movement, previously we went over a butterfly sit-up. This will be a dumbbell sit-up. With the butterfly sit-up, we're taking out the hip flexors and heels together, legs open. With this one, it'll have the dumbbells kind of supporting us. Sure, we've been in gym class or the P90X videos where you put your feet underneath the couch or a partner holds your feet. Partner is now the dumbbell. Just moving into some sit-ups. So now we may have a little bit of recruitment of the hip flexors as the feet raise up into the dumbbells for that support. So we might feel that, but primarily we're going to get the rectus abdominis to lift up the torso, sit up. You've done these before. As we come up, we're going to exhale, hands up overhead, and that would reinforce the best we can to get a little bit of extension of the spine. This way we can get a greater contraction moving forward. If we do have the shoulder mobility, go for that. If it is strenuous to get back there, we don't want momentum swinging back there and us swinging our arms again. Don't want to compromise the shoulders when we're doing sit-ups. So if you have the mobility, go for it. Then same idea. If we're coming forward, if we want to keep the shoulders down and relaxed in front of us, we can do so. If we want to move from the overhead position, sit up, do an overhead position, so almost trying to reach for the sky. That's going to take out a little bit of momentum, driving yourself forward, a little bit more shoulder stability, a little bit more burn, I'll say more metabolic output if we are moving in that direction, and also have a little bit more of a lever arm to get yourself up, so it will be more strenuous for your core musculature as well. A couple things to play around with. Dumbbell sit up.